fundamentally it's about relating to people as creators, as catalysts, not just as sort of the pieces, the pawns in some game. All right. I just want to close out with 2 lessons on prefigurative politics that come out of some of these conversations and some of this thinking. I mean, unfortunately, I've really only been able to briefly gesture at some of these forms. There's a lot more to say about all of them, but I hope that I've at least sparked some interesting thoughts. So I think winding their way through these forms, there are a couple of important lessons. Maybe these ones will get me into trouble, I don't know. So the first lesson is about failure. Prefigurative praxis, in my view, means constantly coming up against the limits of what's possible in the midst of exploitation and oppression, and yet always pushing out the limits, right? So it actually seems to me that we need to develop an uneasy relationship with failure. We have to become friends with failure, but not in a close, friendly way, maybe more in sort of like a on-the-side acquaintance sort of way, but like, hi there, yes, once again, we are failing to perfectly eradicate exploitation and oppression in our activist organization. Good, it's a good reminder, right? It points to, in fact, the work that we have yet to do. And I think it signals that we're coming somewhere close, or we're coming up against the edges of social transformation in our society. The second lesson is about, and this actually returns to something I was talking about at the beginning with John Holloway. The second lesson is about combining an affirmative yes, that is a kind of prefigurative dimension, with a resounding no, which is our struggles against injustice. R.J. McConney, who's an organizer here in New York, he talked about this in relation to folks he worked with, some of whom are in this room. And he said, the prefigurative work, quote, is something we think is a necessary part of movement building, and we got to confront the motherfuckers too. And I mean, this is like quintessential RJ in a certain way, but like, I think that his point is really important. We're going to sell ourselves short if we settle for, or even worse, if we valorize creating momentary or isolated prefigurative forms that are detached from struggles, that are detached from popular fights. Prefigurative practice only makes sense as part of our movements that are fighting to win a new world. I think otherwise we're just playing imaginative games with one another. I'm not really interested in imaginative games. I'm interested in a new world. So for me, these 2 lessons, making friends with failure, combining the no and the yes. Again, not close friends with failure. I think they can guide us as we work in this disjunction between what is and what we want. And I just want to say on one final point that thankfully we're not the only ones talking about these questions. In fact, activists and organizers across this continent are grappling with precisely these kinds of issues, although maybe not with these same terms. And I think we could actually think of ourselves as engaging in that conversation on a much larger scale. That's all what I had to say today.